The following may contain offensive language, adult humor, and or content that some viewers may find offensive. The views and opinions expressed by any one speaker does not explicitly or necessarily reflect or represent those of Mark Radulich or W2M Network. Please listen with caution, or don't listen at all.
Hey! A triple feature, 3 films up on the screen. One's a little heavy, one's a little sleek, and one's just caught between. We'll laugh and cry and overanalyze, dig through themes with wide, wild eyes. Grab some popcorn, take your seat. 3 times the fun, 3 times the treat. Hey, a triple feature. That's what we're here to do. What we're here to do. Buckle up, the lights go down, and we'll watch them all with you.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, you are listening to a Radulich Broadcasting premiere podcast, triple feature. I'm your host, the mandated reporter, and frankly, I'm mortified, Mr. Mark Radulich. And joining me tonight is Jason Teasley.
Hey, I like.
Alright, I'm done now.
Okay, Mark has a new soundboard to play with, so everybody. So all right, Mark. I'm glad that I'm coming in with a soundboard effect. So
You're officially the first to be soundboarded.
well, it's better than being waterboarded.
So that's what some say. Others would disagree. Yeah, I noticed it a couple of weeks ago that they added a soundboard to StreamYard, and I never really played with it because I have my own soundboard. But this is amazing.
So anybody that regularly tunes in, be prepared.
Yeah, and anybody, more importantly, anyone that does a show with me, I am armed and dangerous now.
Yeah, unfortunately.
How you doing tonight, Jason?
Doing good. I mean, I actually forgot that I hadn't watched one of the movies till I got off work today, so that was fun.
Well, I appreciate you not like telling me about it. Panic texting me.
No, I got it in. I got my Better Blues in, with 15 minutes to spare. So we're good.
What is that handle on screen? At Protocol Sun 22.
That's my Twitter. That's what you nickname me. You call me the Protocol Sun.
No, I know that. I know instead of spelling it Prodigal, I spelled it Protocol, and it's been a joke ever since. I didn't. Yeah. I forgot that that's your. I'm never on Twitter anymore, so I didn't realize that was your handle.
Yeah, that's my handle on Twitter. Because do I need to put that it's Twitter? No, because I don't want people following me. I just put it up there because I didn't have something witty to close out Black History Month dealing with Denzel.
Should have called yourself Jason. Here, I'll help you. Let me help you. Can I help you?
Yeah.
Let me help you.
I don't like. What if I don't want to be called Jason? What if I want to be called Jason Q? Oh, there we go. I'm Jason Q today.
You're perfect. All right, so we're focusing on Denzel Washington tonight, and Denzel Washington's rise to cultural dominance can be traced through 3 defining performances that showcase his evolution as both actor and box office draw. Glory, 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 Hallelujah, 1989, directed by Edward Zwick. Washington's portrayal of Trip earned him the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor and introduced him as a performer of raw intensity and emotional gravity. The film grossed over $26 million domestically on a modest budget and became a prestige historical staple. 1 year later, in Spike Lee's Mo Better Blues, 1990, Washington headlined opposite Wesley Snipes, anchoring a jazz drama aimed at adult urban audiences. While its box office was modest, it reinforced his leading man charisma with black cinema. By the time John Q. 2002 arrived, Washington was a certified star. The film opened at number 1 and grossed over $100 million worldwide, tapping into working-class anxieties around healthcare. Across genres, historical epic, auteur drama, and populist thriller, Washington proved bankable, award-winning, and culturally resonant, cementing his legacy as one of Hollywood's most durable and influential leading men. Yeah, we always like focus on a director or an actor when we do Black History Month, and I think because we were focusing almost exclusively on comedians at one point,
Yeah.
we didn't look at Denzel Washington, but Denzel Washington is a legend. He is a absolute god in the heralded halls of acting. He has been in like not as many movies as Samuel L. Jackson, who we did last year, but I mean he's won an Oscar, been nominated a bunch of times. He's been in a million different films. Weirdly enough, no serious IP. He's been in some stuff that's had a sequel here or there. He's been in
Yeah.
some pretty well known stuff, but like he doesn't have a Star Wars to his name. Yet he's absolutely one of the pillars of not just like Afrocentric cinema, but I think cinema at large.
Yeah, I mean, he's one of my favorite actors. And I think that, if you do look at his like filmography, you'll see some great movies, but like you said, he doesn't have like that franchise anchor. Um, and that's really weird for someone of his caliber to not have like, to be cemented in a franchise of some sort. But he's got a huge emotional range. The only thing I haven't really seen him in is a straightforward, comedy,
Mhm.
like an over the top comedy. I've seen him in lighthearted. You see him in lighthearted stuff, but not really bona fide comedy. He takes on more middle of the road, serious, dramatic roles, and we're going to explore various incarnations of those roles tonight with these three movies.
Now, if anyone's wondering why we didn't do Training Day, it's because that got its own podcast. A couple of years back, when we were doing On Trial more regularly, Sean and I, we did Training Day, and my prosecution of Training Day was Denzel Washington. While Denzel Washington got a Lifetime Achievement Award for Training Day, he really did. It wasn't a Best Actor performance because it was a lot of overacting. It was a lot of him. The way I described it was him banging his dick into the scenery, which is fine. And I think even Denzel Washington's so good, he can overact and it's still good. But it is definitely you are acting for the camera, not for the scene. But I don't begrudge him the Oscar that he won because at that point he had done so many stellar performances. He'd probably been robbed once or twice.
Oh yeah, I mean Training Day's a great movie, and it was definitely deserving of the award because I think he had been passed over like 2 or 3 times previous to that when he should at least been a better consideration than what he was, and people had expected him to win. But yeah, I pitched Training Day, and he was like, "We've already done a full one." I was like, "Okay." And then we kind of pivoted. John Q was one of the ones I definitely wanted to do. You kind of went with Glory and Mo Better Blues. So this is a very Denzel-esque vibe. You'll get the plethora of his range throughout these three movies, from him playing a pseudo villain to him playing a narcissistic asshole to him playing an actual anti-hero.
Yeah.
He's framed as a villain, but he's actually an anti-hero, and we'll dive deeper into that as we go along.
All right. So, are any of these? I know you pitched John Q, so clearly you'd seen that before. But what about Glory or Mo Better Blues? Are those first watches for you?
No, actually, funny story is, as when Glory came out, the first time I seen Glory was I was in 9th grade. My world history class, shout out to Jane Watson, who was probably one of my favorite teachers because she was a student teacher. She was all about the students. I mean, I know if any of my friends ever listen to this, we actually went through Billy Joel's "We Didn't Start the Fire," and we broke the lyrics down, and we had to act out the lyrics, the historical significance in front of the class, which was really fun. We got to he introduced us to Glory, which I mean in ninth grade, I mean Glory was kind of, I mean,
It's a
not
brutal movie. I mean, Saving Private Ryan won't come out for a few more years. This is a
Yeah.
rough watch for its time.
Yeah, but I mean, what's funny about it is nobody blinked the eye at us watching this in ninth grade. Now, if you try to watch Glory during a ninth grade school history class now, you'd have parents up in arms, you'd have people being offended. But back then, it was because we taught history, and that's one thing that I'm going through right now. I'm going through a world history class on my way to get my bachelor's. The question was posed about if we should erase history, and parts of the Civil War were discussed, and it reminded me of this. And I said no. And my argument, a lot of people said yes because history is uncomfortable. And I was like, no, because history is supposed to be uncomfortable.
Hang on. History is what?
No, history is uncomfortable. Here we go. It's going to be a 3-hour podcast now. But no, I mean, history, and I stood on the thing, history is supposed to be uncomfortable. One of the first black regiments, that would be something that people might want to erase. And, it's being Black History Month. I think that is significant to have people, because if you're, the old adage goes, if you forget the past, you're doomed to repeat it. So I think the uncomfortable parts of our history is something that needs to be discussed. And I think that Glory handles that really well in a very brutal way. And I think Denzel kind of shines through with it, even though it's more of a Matthew Broderick film, but Denzel shines through with his portrayal. Him and Morgan Freeman are.
I was going to say, this is kind of an all-star cast. This is Matthew Broderick during his rise to prominence, Carrie Elways prior to The Princess Bride, Morgan Freeman before he becomes an institution, Denzel, and then there's some I can't remember the actor's name off the top of my head, but
Was it Blair Underwood? I don't know why that name.
Not Blair Underwood, but there's another the guy who plays Matthew Broderick's black friend, the nerdy guy.
Yeah, that's who I was thinking.
He's the captain from Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Oh yeah. That's where I've seen him.
Yeah, he was in Homicide: Life on the Street. Brilliant actor.
Yeah, this cast is like stacked. And what's funny is seeing Carrie Elwes. Every time he came on screen, I just kept thinking of Robin Hood Men in Tights, waiting for it to break up. Andre Braugher.
Yes, Brower. It's Andre Brower.
Brower.
So let's get into Glory since we're talking about it.
Okay.
Just really quick, yes or no? Had you seen Mo Better Blues before now?
I had not. Today was my first viewing of it.
What a movie! All right, we'll talk about Glory. I saw Glory when I was a kid when it came out. Again, you can expose your children to graphic stuff, and they will turn out just fine. They might get obsessed with soundboards on a radio show, but they'll mostly be okay. Yeah. I loved Glory growing up as a kid. I grew up, part of Jason and I's connection to each other is both grew up in black neighborhoods. So, Glory was like required viewing where I grew up. It's a story of this first black Civil War regiment, and it takes you through the politics of why it was created, the recruitment, the training, and that's half the movie. It's so funny. I watch this with my kids, and they get done training and they finally go off to war, and Jonas goes, "Wait, the movie's still going?" And he looks and he checks the time. He's like, "Oh my God, there's another hour left." And I'm like, "Yes, Jonas, they have to actually go to war now. The whole movie isn't just them training."
We got the fluff. Now we have to have the brutality.
And their march towards significance goes through, being used as labor and being used to terrorize a town and pirate cotton, believe it or not. And then finally, they are part of the last push to take over a southern fort that never gets taken over. But the conclusion of the movie is them rushing into heavy fire, a la Saving Private Ryan. Most of the regime being blown away, and the last thing you see is Carrie Elways and Morgan Freeman taking like cannon fire to the face. But their contribution to that battle was remarkable, and we would go on to continue to have black regiments until the full integration of Negroes into the military. So they were celebrated. The other part of this movie, so that's like the broad strokes of it. There's obviously the internal racial politics of what do you do with the first black regiment, and there's a lot of like, no one's going to seriously let them fight, right? They're not equal to whites. So there's a lot of that going on. Internally, there's a whole other subplot of you have Andre Braugher, who is an educated free man and a friend of who becomes the colonel, Matthew Broderick. And so there's tension between the two of them because they were friends, but now one's kind of leading the other, and you can't show favoritism. And the other guy's like, but we were buddies. I don't understand. Not to mention the fact that he's an intellectual, but he's, enlisted in the military, so he has to learn hardness real quick. It's my favorite line of this movie is, don't you think you're being a little too hard on the men? Matthew Broderick says to the quartermaster, to the drill instructor. And he says, I understand you grew up with the boy. And he was like, I did. Let him grow up a little more. And it was his way of saying, like, look, war is a serious business, and I'm trying to train untrained people to walk into cannon fire and not retreat. Maybe calling him names is not the worst thing he's going to hear today, and a punch in the stomach. So there's that. But the part that concerns Denzel Washington. So Denzel Washington, Morgan Freeman, Andre Braugher, and I can't remember the other actor's name, but he's the one with the stutter, are all pitched in a tent together as they're, learning how to become soldiers. And Denzel Washington is a former slave in every bit of the word, and he is just, as Morgan Freeman calls him, so full of hate, he wants to burn everything to the ground. And he is a classic bully. He goes right after Andre Braugher, and it was right. Boy, if you ever needed an example of George Carlin's thing about if you killed everybody else on earth, left one guy left, that crazy motherfucker would attack the mirror. 4 black guys in a tent, and the first thing Denzel Washington does is pick on Andre Braugher for having the audacity of being able to read and have an education and speak properly.
I thought the actual first person he picked on was the deaf kid playing the drum.
It doesn't really matter. The whole movie, he's after Andre Braugher. So, over the course of the movie, Denzel Washington's like, I'm really just here to kill white people. Like, I can't wait to kill white people. It's my favorite thing. And at one point, again, the politics of race. They don't have supplies because they're not going to waste supplies on a Negro unit that won't fight. Their words, not mine. And Denzel Washington gets word that there's no lady serving food and giving out supplies, so he tries to go to this farm, and he's branded a deserter. And it turns out all he was looking for was new shoes because his feet are fucked up, which they find out after they've whipped him in front of the entire regiment. And Morgan Freeman, and Matthew Broderick goes to Morgan Freeman. He's like, listen, as the elder of the group, you want to give me some insight as to what's going on? And Morgan Freeman's kind of like, no, go fuck yourself. And then he takes a deep breath and goes, he tried to find shoes. You beat him over shoes. That's what you did. So the next thing Matthew Broderick does is shave a quartermaster, and they get their shoes. It's a marvelous scene. That's pretty much. I'm going to let Jason in here for his thoughts. I love this movie. Watching it as a kid, it was great. Watching it as an adult and appreciating the historical value and the nuance and the performances, it's one of the best movies I've ever seen. Your thoughts?
Yeah. Glory. I'm a history buff, so Glory is right up there with one of my favorite wartime history movies.
Mm-hmm.
I think it shows something. Excuse me. That we don't really see, and that's the uncomfortable side of war. We see it later on, but for this snapshot in time, we really didn't have that look. You mentioned.
I was gonna say before Full Metal Jacket, there was Glory.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and Full Metal Jacket is an absolute great movie for the first two
Right.
thirds.
I was
We
gonna say,
won't
well, the
talk about
first
that.
hour of it's the drill instruction scenes.
Yeah, yeah. The first two thirds of the movie is great, but up till somebody gets shot in the head. Anyway, and that's a whole story we'll talk about offline. But Glory is that uncomfortable. I like uncomfortable history movies. I like uncomfortable movies because
Mhm.
it steps out of the social norm and makes you come face to face with harsh realities. That Glory does that, and I think it's handled so well. It's not so over the top that it's like you know it's ham-handed. It's handled very delicately. It's handled with very much prestige and honor and stuff, but it's also a glaring look into America's past and how it treated Negroes in the Civil War. That and I think one of my favorite scenes of this and goes through this is when their pay comes and their regular whiting list was getting $13 a month. They're giving Matthew Broderick's and the company $10, and like everybody's lining up, and it's like, and Denzel just fucking snaps, and he goes, "Take your slave money," and he starts riling everybody up and getting the realization of you know we're just as equal, but why are we not getting paid equally?
Right.
We can stop a bullet just as any white man can. We can fight alongside a white man, but we're still viewed as
Less.
inferior.
I want to just interrupt you really quick. I've been thinking recently that we don't really have a race problem in this country. I don't know if we ever really did. We've always had a class problem. Now, people viewed almost the entirety of blacks as lower class, but that's really what it was. Because in the cases where, I mean, the opening scene has Frederick Douglass in it, and he's treated as an equal. Andre Brower, prior to enlisting in the military, is treated as an equal among the higher class. Again, I'll say it. I don't think I'm not going to speak about other countries, but I think in this country, there's always been a class issue, and it masqueraded as racism.
Well, I'll disagree with you there. I think we do have a race issue in this country, and it's across the board. It's not black, white.
Hmm.
And, I think it's especially in the past, I want to say 12 years or so, 16, 12 years. I think the racial divide in this country has greatly opened up. And I think it's because, and not to get on a political soapbox here, but just to say this, I think it's because uh, the government's biggest fear is a true united nation. So they have to keep everyone divided. And they do that by racial tensions and, as you said, basically class warfare.
Do you know how many, like, my entire social media feed right now is I hate boomers?
Oh
Don't
yeah, I mean,
don't tell me we don't have class issues in this country.
oh no, I'm not saying we don't. I'm saying that we have race issues, but we also have class issues,
Right.
and I
In
think
in as
they're
far as the
using
movie
that.
goes, I think again, it's easy to paint it just as race, as if race
Yeah,
has no class, as if race has no class. But my what that's what I'm getting at is the there's a portion of like the white people in the country at that time who view blacks, any blacks, freed or slaved, educated or not, as low class.
yeah, it's three fifths. That's where the three fifths rule come in. They was
There was a few.
and,
There
and
was other things going on with the three-fifths compromise, but
yeah,
anyway, back to the movie.
yeah. But anyway, I think that I disagree with the race issue being solely. I think that there is, but I think it's also coupled with the class issue. This here, like you said, I think it's more not focused on the race but the class, and I think that's where I think it was delicately handled
Hmm.
because there were black predominant figures
Hmm.
that were treated as equals, but then you had the so-called field worker that was looked down upon as expendable.
Right.
And I think that that's where it is. I mean, you can have an educated, and that's what I think is crucial. You can have an educated person and you can have somebody that's, and this goes back to the class issue, just somebody with a 4-year degree versus somebody with a vocational degree. Everybody will value that 4-year degree no matter what it's in over the vocational degree, though the vocational degree means more in society. But we've been conditioned to see things a lot of times that going to college is prestigious.
Yeah.
Going to a trade school is looked down upon. I mean, I don't know if you had it when you was growing up. I mean, you had like shop classes. And
I was just talking about this with a client today. Back when I was in school, there was something called BOCES, where you did your minimum and then you went out and you did a trade. I wanna put this out there to kind of go alongside with what you're saying. There's a scene in the movie where they're watching the whites march off to war, and Denzel Washington kind of like eyeball fucks one of them, and
as he does
throughout this entire movie.
Yeah.
And he kind of gets pulled off of him by Morgan Freeman, who's just like, what the fuck? Like, these guys are marching to their death for your freedom. Do you get that? Do you get that these guys took up, like, you're so full of hate and you hate white people and you hate this and you hate that. Do you not see that there are white men in this country willing to die for you? Don't be an asshole.
Yeah, and I think that's something that
it was Morgan Freeman, so he said it a lot better than that, but that's more or less that scene.
I mean, Morgan Freeman's actually the voice of God, and but yeah, I mean, I've got it in my will that Morgan Freeman is to read my eulogy at my funeral. But
he has to do it as Joe Clark.
Yeah,
they used to call him Crazy Jason. Now they can call him Worm Food. Now
they call him Boxman. But yeah, I mean, and I think that's a lot of things that we miss out on today, and you see a lot of things, even though this was 89, I think it was 89, that you turn a mirror back on today's society, and you see some of the same themes running in this movie through the Civil War that you see in 2026. And that's it. I mean, you don't really get the angst of, some people were willing to die for your freedoms, but you have so much hate and resentment for someone that wronged you.
Right.
You don't see the good in the people that want to help you.
You have to connect that scene to everything involving the shoes, because again, Denzel Washington is trying to like corrupt Andre Braugher and be like, come on, let's go find this lady and let's get ourselves some pie and some shoes. And Morgan Freeman's like, if you get caught, you're gonna be a deserter and they're gonna whip you. And Denzel Washington's like, y'all a bunch of scaredy cats. So he runs off, gets caught, and the thing of it is they actually show you Denzel Washington's feet. They're fucked up from those shoes.
So is his back.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was getting to. So then the drill master's like, he tried to desert. He has to be flogged in front of the regiment to teach them don't do this. Okay. Somewhat sound reasoning. However, because no one bothers to ask him where he was running to and why, they just assumed he was a deserter, which is why the next scene is really important. He just gets flogged. They take his shirt off. Dude, Denzel Washington, across 3 movies, I never appreciated his ability to cry on command. Because he does it here. And, like, again, if you've ever watched somebody get whipped, God knows I have. It's fucking painful. And it's really hard to contain yourself. And Denzel Washington, granted, he's not really whipped. But in the movie, in the context of that scene, first of all, you see his back. His back looks like Abdullah the Butcher's fucking head. It is just covered in like keloid scars. He has been whipped front to back, up to down, from asshole to elbow. He has been he has been tortured. So when they take his shirt off, and again, the whole time it's just like, hey, you're fighting for your country. Your country loves you. We're trying to give you your freedom. And then here we are doing what we do to black guys, just whipping them. That's the whole subtext of that scene. fucking Denzel Washington takes off his shirt and eyeball fucks Matthew Broderick. It's like a scene out of Oz.
Yeah, I was gonna actually touch on that scene. That
Mhm.
scene is powerful simply because the way, and this is one thing that I love with Denzel.
Mhm.
He has this look
Oh yeah.
that is just just go fuck yourself look.
I am gonna
And
fuck your ass in your dreams for the rest of your life. Look.
yeah,
That's what it is.
and he just stare as he's getting flogged. He
Mhm.
is staring Matthew Broderick down to where the point it is really uncomfortable because of the camera work and just keeps
Yeah.
zooming in on his face.
It's the exact opposite of what they did with Dame Judi Dench in Cats, where they just frame her face and she's like, dogs are not cats. And they don't move the camera. And it's the eeriest fucking thing. Here, same shot, but it's just Denzel Washington fucking eyeball fucking Matthew Broderick, and then a single tear, a single sad, angry tear as he's being whipped to fucking shit.
Yeah, I thought he was going to become an Indian and seen somebody litter. That's how powerful it was.
But yeah, and then the following scene, Matthew Broderick's like, probably could have handled that better. Let me see if I can get some insight into the men. And Morgan Freeman, who's like Morgan
Papa
Freeman,
Joe.
he's just so great in this movie because it's like he's trying to, like he's the wise elder amongst the black soldiers, and he's trying to help Andre Brower, and he's trying to help the stuttering kid, and he's trying to be a loyal soldier, and he's trying to not go crazy himself. And so, like, he thinks Denzel Washington's kind of, I think, an angry piece of shit, but he doesn't want to see him whipped. Nobody does. Nobody wants to see another black guy get whipped, especially then. And so Matthew Broderick's like, I would appreciate it if you would tell me more about the men. And Morgan Freeman just gives him this look like, horse already left the barn, cracker. Like, the fuck?
Yeah.
You've already whipped the guy. What else are you going to do? And then he kind of like takes a breath. He was just like, well, if I don't speak up for the men now, I'm just as culpable as anybody else. So let me take the hand that's being extended. And he says, shoes. The men all need shoes. He did especially, and that's why he ran to get shoes. And Matthew Broderick's like, well, I feel sheepish now. And Matthew Broderick, I mean, like, we're supposed to be focusing on Denzel Washington, but Matthew Broderick gives a hell of a performance in this.
Oh yeah.
About a month or so ago, we reviewed Ferris Bueller's Day Off, which comes out fucking, I think, after Glory. And it's like two different guys. Like, Matthew Broderick carries himself with such distinction in this movie. And when he has to, like, throw a good old Civil War tantrum when he's when he's at the Quartermasters, and he was just like, where are you hiding the shoes? And he's like knocking shit off shelves. Then he calls him a nasty cur, which, today it's just like, well, he wouldn't call anyone that, but back then apparently that was some shit.
Yeah, back then it was basically he called him a cunt.
Yeah, it's good shit. I'll give you the last word on Glory, and we'll move on to Mo Better Blues.
If you haven't seen Glory, definitely seek it out, especially if you like history adaptations and stuff. This is a great movie. Seek it out. You'll see Matthew Broderick in a whole different light. If you're just familiar with him through Ferris Bueller, this will give you an insight of him, why he didn't become a bigger actor than he peaked. Like, he peaked in these two movies and kind of fell off after, is a mystery to me. But yeah, I mean, if you're a history fan, if you like an all-star cast that has some uncomfortable scenes but has a really good heart, definitely check out Glory. It's worth it. And like I said, you'll see a lot of social commentary then that we're seeing now in the division among the country.
So one of Spike Lee's favorite collaborators is Denzel Washington. Denzel Washington's been in a bunch of different Spike Lee movies. We've covered at least two of them. Malcolm X and He Got Game. And here we are again with Mo Better Blues. This is Denzel Washington as a jazz prodigy. Jesus. Spike Lee is his jazz band's manager. Spike Lee has a bit of a gambling problem. Denzel Washington. Denzel Washington. I mean, this whole movie is basically, let's follow Denzel Washington and this band around for a while. And Denzel Washington's going to do a very modern thing. He's going to try to juggle two women. And he's got a lot of control over this band, which is driving Wesley Snipes up the wall. It's one of these weird Spike Lee movies where it's overly long and it kind of meanders and rambles for a bit. But taken as a whole, I enjoy Mo Better Blues. The big thing here is that Spike Lee, they want more money. The band wants more money to play at this club. Individually, the band, especially Wesley Snipes, wants more freedom to play more different kinds of music. And Denzel Washington is a control freak. I will talk about my favorite scene in this movie in just a moment, considering that. Spike Lee is having a hard time getting the club owner to pay him more money. This is John Turturro. And not only that, he's also spending a lot of money on gambling, which gets him and Denzel Washington beat to shit. Denzel Washington gets fucked up. He tries to come back and play jazz again. It does not go well. He then begs one of the women to quote-unquote save his life, because basically he's like, I don't have jazz anymore. Jazz has been my entire personality for nigh on 30 plus years, and I don't have it. And I need a life. I need a personality. And so this woman, taking pity on him, marries him and gives him a child. I don't know what possessed Spike Lee to show up an up-close shot of a vagina giving birth, but he felt the need to put that in the movie. Weirdo. Him and Kevin Smith. Like, we don't need to watch little girls taking a shit. We don't need to see a fucking up-close shot of a vagina. Anyway, having birth. Anyway, so they get married, they have a kid, and in a encore presentation of the very first scene of the movie, Denzel Washington, having learned from the mistakes of his parents, lets his child go out to play and stop doing jazz for a little bit. My favorite scene in this movie, because it's a thing I've had to go through a lot. I am married to one thing in this life, and that is my schedule. My schedule is very important to me. I am very type A when that stuff's concerned. I am a man who believes in structure. And when anyone has tried to throw me off my schedule, I'm pretty easygoing and willing to compromise with people, believe it or not, just despite disparaging things that have been said about me. But when you try to disrupt my schedule, I am the juggernaut. I am immovable. It's about discipline. It's about priority. It's about responsibility. And here we have Denzel Washington, who tells the nice lady, between 2 and 4 is my practice time.
1 and 2.
It's 1 and 2. Do not come to my... No, it was like a 2-hour practice, like 1 and 3.
No, it was 1 and 2.
Between 5 and 8, do not come to my place. I am practicing. This is my rehearsal time. I'm a serious jazz musician, and I must do serious practice. And here comes a pretty lady going, so about those boundaries you have, what if I violate them on an ongoing basis? How are you going to feel about that? And Denzel Washington, having a penis, allows her to violate his boundaries because vagina. But we are treated to, why are you bothering me, woman, when I have told you what my boundaries are and what time I practice? And here you are violating my boundaries and my practice time. How dare you? How dare you, madam? And she's like, I have a vagina. Are you going to let me up or not? And he was like, well, fair point to you. And let me tell you, Jay, how many times I've had that exact conversation.
We've all had that conversation throughout.
Tonight before this podcast, I got the what's the schedule for tonight? Well, I have BetterHelp and then I have a podcast. He was like, you do too many podcasts. And I was like, I do the same 2 nights every week. You know, it was before you, it'll be after you.
It's structure.
It's structure.
Yeah, trust me. Trust me, I know all about Mark's OCD when it comes to scheduling, and when something goes haywire, getting a phone call and saying this movie isn't streaming, we gotta pivot, and it takes 20 minutes of me going, Mark, just pick something, and then me suggesting, and Mark not picking something, and me suggesting something, so finally Mark picks 3 movies, and I go, okay, that was simple. But yeah, Mark is very OCD. His schedule is important because as we speak here, it is February 26th of 2026. We're already most of our February 27 schedule is already started filling up. So that gives you a lead. I could probably look on my calendar and tell you movies I'm on next October.
Jason
yeah.
likes to throw me under the bus. I'm
Oh
not the
no.
one. I'm not the one texting about how many more shows can we book into next year and the year after, sir.
Oh no. I'm okay with it because if I don't if I know I've learned that if I'm not first, then I'm going to be on the outside looking in. So I want to be. And Mark can attest to this. I'm the type of person that if I see something I want to do, I'm texting Mark, "Hey, this is it. Hasn't even started filming yet. When it comes out, I want to be on the show. I got dibs." They just announced that they're going to. They just started writing this script, so I'm calling dibs now. Jason,
Yeah.
the movie has. They just announced that they're even considering. I don't care. I'm calling dibs. So yeah, I'm a little OCD when it comes to that. There's certain things that I have.
So
That I
about the
have.
movie, sir.
Well, no, I'm going into it.
Okay.
I have certain things that I'm OCD about, just like this, because this movie is. I see a lot of myself in this movie.
Yeah.
Well, I should say myself now, my younger self. When I was like 20. Um, but I was very narcissistic. Imagine that. I was very narcissistic. I mean, to the point where I had the word the letters "I see why you envy me" on the front of my truck that I drove around. And I had my email address at one time was narcissistic J. So yeah, that's how narcissistic I was. I mean, I used to not. I had a girlfriend that used to make fun of me because I would walk by mirrors in Walmart and stop to look at myself. So yeah, I was very egotistical, just like he was. His band and his jazz was primarily thing. Back then, it was me playing basketball. I played back, and this is what it's been a reason why I didn't have many relationships. I played basketball 6 nights a week. I mean, I would travel all over Southern West Virginia to play basketball. I mean, I would travel 2 hours to play 2 hours worth of basketball and then drive 2 hours home. So I was a 6 hour block. And I would tell the girl I'm dating, you can go with me and we'll spend 2 hours driving together, talking and stuff, spending time together. But once we get to the gym, you're going to be pretty much invisible to me until we leave and I tell you to get your shit and we're leaving and we go get something to eat and we'll drive back. But yeah, I mean, and then, and a lot of, and I think her name was Indigo. You see how she's manipulated. He thinks he's manipulating her when she's actually using him to try to launch her singing career. And as soon as the injury happens and he can't play, she's nowhere to be found, and he has to run to the young lady that seen him for who he was, not what he could offer her. And we've all experienced that as well, Mark. You've had relationships, I've had relationships. As soon as something goes wrong and we're no longer an asset to somebody, things crumble. Shit falls apart, and we're no longer if we're no longer needed, and we're no longer people see us as
no one is as lonely as a man who has nothing to offer a lady.
Right. So this was kind of a self-reflection on me, and you always have that friend and sometimes you are that friend that gets themselves in over their head and needs somebody to reel it back in and just be in their corner, and despite all the shit that they've done wrong, you're still friends with.
Yep.
9 times out of 10, I'm that friend.
I love the music in this. The music. This is
another great soundtrack.
Early Spike Lee, he kind of just always plays music in the background. There's always music going on in any scene. Spike Lee does not do well with quiet, and his movies are not necessarily noisy, but they're kind of operatic. And like, there's always a score in the background going. It's generally speaking, it's a lot of jazz. Malcolm X did this. This does it. He Got Game did it a bit. There's a lot of that going on, and Mo Better Blues makes the best use of jazz in terms of Spike Lee movies. Wesley Snipes is really good in this, but Wesley Snipes is kind of just doing Wesley Snipes stuff. So here's my thing. Of all the movies that we're going to talk about, I have the least to say about Mo Better Blues. It's a fine movie. if you like Spike Lee movies, it's one of his better ones. If you like Denzel Washington being a leading man and and playing this character who goes on this arc of learning to be less controlling and learning that you can't make one thing your whole life, your whole personality, it's fine. I don't see Mo Better Blues having much more appeal than that, though. Like, this is not like Malcolm X is this grand tale of this civil rights figure and Muslim. Some of these other movies that Spike Lee has done, I think, have broader appeal. Mo Better Blues is very niche.
Well, and I mean, it's got a great cast in it too. I mean, for the not so much for the time being, and I'm not gonna lie, this movie did cause me to shed a tear because I had no idea, and I got blindsided. One of my favorite comedians is in this movie that is no longer with us.
Robin Harris.
That died right as this movie came out,
Mm-hmm.
and just him riffing and being doing some of his stand up, it just made me. It took me back to a simpler time in my childhood, watching, being introduced to Robin Harris and Bebe's Kids. That's a movie we need to review at some point. I don't care when.
They don't. Maybe we'll do a Robin Harris focus one triple feature.
I would love that. Robin Harris is well. I mean, we could just talk about his stand up. I mean, his stand up was more impactful because he only played these little side characters.
That's while you're talking, I'm actually going to look up and see what other movies he was in. If he was in anything besides Baby's Kids, are there two other movies that he had a big role in?
He was in this. He was in. I'm pretty sure he was in. Spike Lee. We just reviewed.
Oh my God! He won an Independent Spirit Award for Best Supporting Male Performer in House Party.
I knew he was in House Party, and he was in another Spike Lee. I can't remember. It's the great Spike Lee movie we did last year. Shit.
D Got Game.
No. It's one of the best Spike Lee movies. Do the Right Thing. He was in Do the Right Thing.
That was not last year. That was 2 or 3 years ago. But go on.
Oh really? My memories. But yeah, I mean, this movie is like, a movie could have been 90 minutes and got its point across, but of course it's Spike Lee, so we have to extend everything and make it as long as possible, make it like a fucking documentary about the Serengeti. And this movie could have been a tight 90 minutes and you got the same result. It's not one of, I think it's just one of Denzel's movies where he does show range. He shows that over-the-top egotistical control freak, and he plays it really well. But I don't think it's one of his best movies. But I think it's very important to view as one of Spike Lee's just kind of basic movies, but then also one of Denzel's movies to show the range he has.
So, other than Baby's Kids, we've almost done everything that this guy's been in. We've done I'm Gonna Get You Sucker, Do the Right Thing, Harlem Nights. The only one we haven't done is House Party.
Yeah, which we almost did this year.
We almost did this year.
Yeah, when the catastrophe of Breaking 2 Electric Boogaloo happened.
I will never call you again, Jason. All right, anything?
No, I'm just saying. I mean, it was fine. And what was funny was a week later, both of them were free on streaming.
Now, Breaking's already free.
I'm pretty sure I seen it a week later that I seen Breaking was free, and because I kind of chuckled.
Anyway, anything else about?
No, I mean it's a fine movie. It's fine. It's in Mark Radley's words. It's fine.
It is definitely fine. I don't see what you're talking about.
It was like on a.
It's like a remind me here thing, but there's no link. It's not streaming anywhere yet.
Yeah, I swear it was like a week later because I had Breaking and Breaking 2 together.
Breaking 2 is streaming. It's not Breaking though. Not that I can see, at least.
I could be wrong. I've been wrong once before, but
at least. All right. So let me just introduce this, and then I'm gonna let you kind of lead the discussion because this was your baby.
Yes.
John Q. The story is basically this: Denzel Washington's son has an enlarged heart. He needs a surgery. Denzel Washington's insurance does not cover the surgery, so they have to pay cash. Cash is going to be $250,000. If he doesn't get the surgery, he dies. And so Denzel Washington basically takes the hospital hostage and was like, I need him on the donors list, and I need a new heart, and I need the surgery to happen, and I'm not letting people go unless this happens. As luck would have it, somebody ends up getting into a car accident. She dies. A heart becomes available, and James Spader. No, not James Spader. The fuck's his name?
Robert Duvall.
No,
No.
the doctor.
Oh, James Wood.
I was close. So James Wood's like, I'll do the surgery. Now there's a bit where they don't know that there's a heart available. So Denzel Washington's going to kill himself and give his heart to his kid. And again, James Woods is like, first, no. And then finally he's like, all right, yes. He ends up getting charged with, a bunch of different things, but then found not guilty, except for taking the hospital hostage. And I think he does like a minuscule amount of time. And that's how the movie ends. But along the way, this is a long meditation on healthcare for profit and how it's fucked all of us. Jason?
All right, Mark, you glossed over a lot of things. Okay, let's start the movie.
Yes, because I wanted to give you time to talk, fuckface.
No, I'm just saying you glossed over a lot that I'm going to dive into, and I'm going to fill the gaps in. First, we see that women can't drive at the very beginning of the movie because we see her pass one car, get behind the large truck, and it pans out, and you see a wide open road in front of her for about 2 miles, and then suddenly she follows this truck that she's passed every car up to this point with ease. She proceeds to follow this truck into a curve and tries to pass in a curve, and shit happens. People fuck. She dies, and then it cuts to John Q. And him and his wife and son, they're living in poverty. I mean, it's no her
they're working poor would be the term.
No, they're in poverty because the reason why is he went from full time at a factory where he was a full-time employee getting 40 hours. They cut his hours down to 20. They cut him down to 20 hours. His wife's working, barely making that. He's barely making anything. Her car gets repossessed, and they're trying to instill these values into the kid and everything. So you've got him on the verge of emotional, financial, everything stressed. The weight of the world is on his shoulder. And then at a baseball game, his son collapses. They rush him to the hospital. Well, then we get the exciting things that never happen because one, HIPAA exists. Two, that's not how hospitals work. But anyway, they bring him in and they tell him that it's going to be $250,000 and they need to pay $75,000. Well, one, in a case like this, you cannot withhold medical treatment for somebody that needs. What would happen is you would bill them. They don't pay. You sue them. That's why we have the medical crisis we do.
People are going bankruptcy to pay those bills, but you're absolutely right. At the Hippocratic Oath at first do no harm, but I think they even say in the movie they're like, go to a different hospital, they'll take care of it. So, they try to take him to county and the only thing that is because, with my background, there's only certain hospitals that are allowed to take patients like that. So he would just be bounced right back to where he's at. Yeah. He'd eventually, in real life, he'd have gotten the heart surgery, and then you're right, they'd have spent the rest of their lives paying that bill off.
Right. So they start selling everything they own, and that's a funny story that we'll touch on at the end of the movie. They start basically selling everything they own to pay this hospital bill. Then come to find out, she calls him, he's home. She calls him and say, he's in the ICU, but he's getting discharged. Never would happen because they can't pay the bill. That doesn't happen. You don't pay. It's not a hotel. It's not the Radisson. You don't pay by day. And then if you can't pay, you get evicted. That's not how it happens. But anyway, we fast forward he gets worse. They're going over everything, and then suddenly she screams when she tells him he's being discharged. The wife is yelling at him. He needs to do something. So do something. Light bulb goes off in Denzel Washington's head. I need to go take the ER hostage, and threaten this doctor who is supposed to do the surgery. Threaten him with a gun. Take the ER hostage. Well, there's problems with that because the rest of the hospital is working just fine, except for the waiting room of the ER. Everybody else is fine. It's weird, but anyway, he goes on and everything starts being. He goes through every avenue trying to raise money, trying to get his story out. He goes to a local news affiliate that does like goodwill stories and exposing hospital exposés and stuff. Gets blown off. They show up. They tap in. He tries to play the heroes, bringing this news to the people. In the meantime, John Q is just trying to help his son. He would do what any parent would do, almost, except hold somebody hostage. But you would go to the ends of the world to make sure your kid's all right. And the funniest thing is, he takes them hostage, but he's just like, he's just telling everybody the story, and everybody's in there like, yeah, that's fucked up. And he ends up being a hero to the masses.
Well, some of them are on his side. Like
everybody in the ER is on his side except for one guy.
Well, I was gonna say, like, there's a nurse in there that is immediately trying to explain to him like why his insurance doesn't work and all this other stuff. And and the movie spends an enormous amount, like the fact that if John Q doesn't take the ER hostage, we don't have a movie. Right. It's a gimmick movie, and you're right. There's a lot of stupid things that happen in order for the gimmick to happen. That's just movie making. It's why I didn't focus on it. However, a big chunk of this movie is a discussion of modern healthcare. It is basically 5 or 6 people sitting around a table discussing the problems with healthcare, and then eventually they have to kind of like get back to the movie, and they have to move the plot along. And because this is a movie, someone has to kind of be the bad guy, which is Anne Heche in this, and kind of be the bad guy, which is James Woods, and kind of be the bad guy, which is the douchebag who beats up his girlfriend. But really, the whole movie is just them, for the most part. Like, it takes a little while to get to this point, but when they do, it's the only part of the movie that isn't ass retarded, is them sitting around talking about what is wrong with the healthcare system and why it operates the way that it does. But I will tell you that the movie does realize you can't do that for 2 hours. You have to like do stuff, and it does. They do stuff with the cops. There's a whole thing where Ray Liotta tries to have Denzel Washington killed, which goes poorly. There's a whole thing that happens, and so weirdly enough, I actually think the movie is pretty paced well. But I'll let you go back to kind of walking through the finer points. You're muted and frozen, I think. Jason, unmute yourself.
My earbuds are dying. So yeah, we're gonna have to grill at this for a little bit to finish out the show. I think the look on the healthcare system, speaking to somebody who was an EMT and in the ER, is massive. And it does. The only person, like you said, isn't on the side is the guy abusing his girlfriend in there. But yeah, I mean, the healthcare system is absolutely shit. And just one more thing that doesn't happen: your insurance doesn't change without you knowing. It's just not something that happens. And that goes in, and that's when they start discussing everything. And then, you see this guy who's trying desperately to save his son, but then you have them making him basically a villain, or trying to make him a villain when he actually is an anti-hero. Because I mean, if you've ever went to the ER, I mean, a Band-Aid is $500.
simple Band-Aid is $500. Like saline that costs maybe $1 or $2 for the hospital is like $800. I mean, the inflation, the price inflation is tremendous. I mean, it's almost 1,000 to 2,000% above what it needs to be. So, yeah, the healthcare system, and this is what it goes back to, is absolutely dog shit. And the way insurance companies handle it, because hospital insurance and stuff is great if you have it, but you pay into it with minimal return. I mean, last year, just we was looking at bills on my foot. It was great. We met our deductible. That's why I had my surgery at the end of the year. It's because we still had met our deductible and it would have been covered. But I'm still out $1,700 for my surgery. And it's kind of crazy that, everything was so inflated. I mean, and out of the 1,700, I think like 1,500 of it is just anesthesia. And it's like, and the other is
you should have seen the bills I got for all my cancer treatments. It was like the gross national product of Zimbabwe.
Yeah, I mean, some hospital bills. I mean, if you have a kid, it's basically the government funding for a small country, and it's just something like that. And we won't get into the political side that we're dealing with healthcare now. We'll focus on the movie. But yeah, I mean, the insurance companies and hospitals will charge what an insurance company will pay. I mean, right now, I think we paid $250 every 2 weeks for 3 people, so $500 a month. And it's good because we have all of our prescriptions free, and if we see somebody in network, it's free. But like for my knee as a specialist, my foot surgery was a specialist. So those are considered out of network. And that's where they get you, is because everybody needs to see a specialist of some sort. And you can relate to this with your cancer treatments and your oncology and stuff. It is insane how much the American medical field is just raping its public and citizens to go to the doctor to try to be healthy. That's why and Mark, you could probably attest to this. That's why you see a lot of guys don't go to the doctor unless it's absolutely necessary, because logically we think of it as we weigh the outcome. If I go to the doctor, it's going to be this much. If they give me medicine, it's going to be this much. Can I survive without going to the doctor? Yes. It's like I seen one of my friends that's in the medical field. He's a male nurse. He said, guys mostly are just, Pintos with all the lights on the dashboard, just hoping we don't fall apart.
Yeah. I had to go to the doctor late last year. And if I hadn't, I wouldn't have known that I had diabetes and I had high cholesterol. And, as the ChatGPT told me, my body was inflamed. That's why I wasn't getting any better. Since I've been on my medication, I've been more or less fine, operable. I'm never going to be able to play the piano again, but what are you going to do? But yeah, when my insurance changed this year, and it's funny you said like they don't not tell you. I was told, I just wasn't paying attention, nor did I know what I was reading. So, but I learned really quickly that when you switch from a standard HMO to a high deductible plan. So I get this bill for my daughter's talk therapy. That's $161, and I'm like, on what fucking planet is talk therapy $161? $161, like not psychiatry. Fucking 45 minutes of talk therapy. They were like, yeah, this is what it is under your high deductible plan. Well, what's my deductible? $7,000. Oh, so I have virtually unusable health insurance, is what you're telling me. They're like, right. Yeah, more or less. You have but in order for you to start getting what used to be rational co-payments for standard medical stuff, you're going to spend $7,000 first. I was like, why do you even have health insurance then? And I'll tell you, the answer to that question is because my medications are still reasonably priced.
Yeah, and I mean, if you look at it, $7,000 for me is basically 2 months' work. I mean, roughly.
Yeah.
In my current position.
Yeah, same.
So I mean,
same. I make after taxes and bullshit insurance, I make about $4,000 a month.
Yeah, I mean, in reality, so you're working for free for 2 months to pay a copay that you might not even make
for
in the year.
Rent and other bills. Yeah, believe me, my entire fucking social media feed is filled with people who are like, we're all feudal. We're all living in feudalism now. We just work to live. There's no extra.
Yeah, and we go back to our childhood. It was never like that. I mean, I never knew that I was poor because the facade. Being a kid, the facade I never did without. I mean, my mom had the term "she robbed Peter to pay Paul." Because that was, we lived paycheck to paycheck. But did I really notice it? No.
Yeah.
Did I notice it when I was an EMT and I was working fucking 130 hours in 2 weeks and bringing home good money? No. Last year, I made in 6 months, I made almost 50K. Did I realize I paid? No, because I was digging myself out of debt because I had a not the greatest job paying. Then I lost it, and then went through the mess of them fighting me on unemployment for termination that I didn't get. AT&T, when I worked for them, they still owed me $7,000 that I'll never see, and I maxed out all my credit cards and everything, and it was just one of those things. It was rough, and it took me making $50,000 to break even. And a lot of people say, well, that's a lot of money. It is, but then again, it's not.
So it's funny, like John Q is an okay movie. Let me say this much.
Yeah.
So we can actually get back on topic. John Q is an okay movie. It's a silly premise, but it's a silly premise in the service of having a very serious discussion. It's more relevant today than it was when it came out. Because now,
Absolutely.
because now we're realizing that the system can't support the stress we're putting it under. So this whole conversation that we've been having, never mind about how much money we make and how much money we spend, just the healthcare part of this conversation, more and more people, as you put it, are like that they're not using medical services because they've become priced out. Like I said, if I have to pay up to $7,000 in order to use my healthcare, I'm not using it outside of going to doctor visits just to get my medication refills. And I'll say this out loud, and I'll say it to anyone who's listening. I can't go through another fucking cancer round. Like I was talking to somebody the other day who found out that he just had cancer, and he was telling me what he was going through. And I was thinking to myself, like, I don't have a third one in me. And even if I had that inner strength to endure another bout of cancer, I don't have the money for it. Thank God, for as much as my boomer parents drive me up the wall, they also helped me pay a lot of my medical bills. And when I was the only time that I was out of work was when I was forced out, because in order to get CAR T, you had to sit out for 3 months. Otherwise, I would have worked through that as well, because I worked almost the entirety of the time that I had cancer and almost died twice, if we're going to tell stories. I worked at a dirty ass jail the entire time, through all the pain that it caused me. Not that it mattered to certain people, but that I digress. So my point being, had it not been for my parents, I wouldn't have gotten through it. And to their credit, if it wasn't for my ex-wife's parents, they also helped in their own way. But a lot of people don't have two sets of decent parents to help them with major medical expenses. Other people just go bankrupt. And that's what this movie is talking about.
And I mean, just to shine light, I mean, I knew you through both bouts of cancer, and the struggles you seen,
never end a podcast while I'm vomiting. That was the rule.
Yeah, that was one of the rules. And I seen what you went through, not only financially, mentally, emotionally, physically. I seen you go through all that, and to hear you say that, it kind of saddens me. But I get where you're coming from. It's one of those things like
Well,
you say,
the last
you
3 years have been a bit rough on me, and that kind of took the last
know,
ounce of fight I had.
well, I mean, going back to this, you
Hmm.
said, you only go to the doctor if it's needed now. Well, honestly, it's a double-edged sword. You either go to the doctor to meet your deductible and go in debt, or you, you pay for something you're never going to use.
Little known
It,
fact
it's
though is is a lot of medical debt though doesn't go on your credit. And let me tell you how like there's plenty of medical bills that have still to this day not been paid. There's not a whole lot they can do about it.
Yeah, they they can sue you, but it takes forever, and they
Hmm.
never. And the fact that only thing you got to do is, oh, you're getting sued. Okay, I'll file bankruptcy, and then they're fucked. So
Yeah.
they can't. They really hospitals don't really pursue it and anything like that. Now,
Yep.
John Q is one of those things. In the time frame, it didn't really mean that much. It kind of was like, oh well, yeah. Now watching it, you're like, holy shit, this movie is so fucking relatable. This should have been made in 2026, and it would have hit home a lot better.
In
Uh,
2026, the plot is, the moral of the story is die quietly.
well, I could have went a whole why he needed surgery. It was a gender affirming care surgery, and he can't have it, and therefore that he takes over
Would you like to
the
say anything about the
hospital.
craft of this movie, or could we done?
No, no,
And
I mean, I
And Hayes
think
is wonderful in this. How about that?
yeah, I I think Eddie Griffith's great in this movie, and it's
Yeah.
kind of fun at the end that and it's hilarious that there's two black guys in there, and they arrest one and don't realize it's the wrong one, and it goes back to an old Eddie Murphy
Hmm.
joke that all black people look alike, and
Hmm.
they kind of shine the light on that. But then you go and we was watching this. If this went to a jury, there's no way he would be convicted. Now, when they say that he's guilty of the kidnapping, I really kind of don't really see that because he really didn't. He let people go, and I think it
No,
would have been
Jason. Everything else. I agreed with that. If there's one thing about the movie that I thought was realistic was how the court case played out. That he was only
yeah.
convicted of kidnapping. He did kidnap those people. I mean, for all intents and
So
purposes, they thought that gun was loaded. It's a
well,
funny
it
reveal
wasn't
at the end
though.
where it's like he's just the one bull and it's for himself.
Yeah, I mean they can't prove nothing. How did they prove that they was kidnapped? They could have walked out
He
anytime. He
chained the
walked outside
door.
3 or 4 times. He walked outside like 4 or 5 times. And
Okay.
it's not like this goes back to the point where I said it was only the ER. He only chained the outside door. No other doors were chained or blocked or locked or anything. They could have went through the rest of the hospital.
Okay. I'm glad you're retrying the case and on appeal.
Yes. But yeah, I mean, this movie is fine. I think it holds more weight now than it did then. And I recommend anybody that is listening, all three people in the chat, if you're paying attention, go watch this. And
We haven't actually talked about
no,
Denzel Washington in this. This is another one where he cries instantaneously, and I was amazed across 3 movies how well he cries on camera. Um,
and it's
he's also
believable.
Yeah, and as like a father, just sort of at the end of his rope, he's really good in this. Like Denzel Washington, he's drawing a little bit from his Training Day character. He's drawing a little bit from different pieces of parts that he's played over the years. I think as a poor guy down on his luck, trying to save his son's life, being desperate, but also being like. But there's a couple of parts of the movie where he's like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. I'm just playing it by ear. Like my wife yelled at me earlier to do something, so I'm doing something. I don't know what I'm doing. He does that
how many
really
times
well.
that happened?
You know, I don't trust a lot of actors with that kind of, you know, inner monologue and motivation, and I think he handled it well. I'll be the last thing I say on this is because, you know, just focusing on him as an actor, the movie in and of itself is meh. The theme is ever present and resonant, and will be until we become sane and go back to non-for-profit healthcare. No, I didn't say nationalized healthcare. I said not-for-profit healthcare.
Yeah.
And then, you know, as far as his actual performance, though, it's one of his better. It's one of his better ones where he's not overacting or like playing completely into a stereotype. I'll give you the last word on John Q, the actual movie, not your, you know,
I
biography.
think. I'm sorry, you can eat a dick. Go play with your soundboard. But anyway, I think this is one of Denzel's movies where he's the most relatable. That's my penis throbbing because of how.
You told me to play with
But
it.
anyway, I know you're going to shoot your eye out. But this is one of Denzel's most believable, I think, and humanize. Trying to think of the word. Yeah, I didn't think that was a word. That's why I didn't say it fully because I didn't want to make myself look like a more bigger idiot. But it shows him as a human. It shows him the most relatable character that you probably find in Denzel, where he's not like chewing scenery. He's not trying to overact. He's not being over the top. He's just being in the moment in the movie, and that's why I think that's what makes this movie elevates it more than what it is. You could put anybody else in this role and it not come off as good. Denzel has that mystique about him where he could play the everyday father at the end of his rope, or he could play a slave that's ready to kill everybody just to watch the world burn, or he could play an egocentric. And I think we've covered all three of those. But if you want to see Denzel just be just like a normal person, highly recommend this because every father can relate to this movie through Denzel and his actions.
All right, that is our triple feature review of Glory, Mo Better Blues, and John Q. Saturday, we will officially end Black History Month. It'll be myself and Evan Bevins. We'll be looking at Robert Townsend, another giant in the world of black cinema. We'll be looking at Hollywood Shuffle, The Meteor Man, and The Five Heartbeats, which I actually saw for the first time last night. Earlier in the week, myself and Robert, Jason, you didn't miss anything. Psycho Killer sucked. Just don't even bother.
Oh God,
it was terrible. Last night, myself and Jesse returned to the studio, and we made a sad country song from elements of BoJack Horseman, so that's fun. Next week, Sunday, source material is back. We're going to be looking at Batman, Bruce Wayne, Murderer. Monday is Scream 7, Fuck My Life. Alexis will be on that show. Hooray. And then a double dose of Damn You Hollywood. We'll be doing our Oscar Best Picture show, previewing that. So check out all the great shows here on the Rattlevision Broadcasting Network. Jason, when are you back?
I'm on a hiatus. You've got this closes out the lovely month of Jason, the Protocol Son. I'm not back till March 30th when we do Ready or Not 2. Here I come.
I actually have to watch the first one. I never saw the first one. You guys did that one without me. So yes, Jason.
The first one's really good.
Jason will be back for Ready or Not 2. Here I come. So check that out. All right. That's it for Jason Teasley, the Protocol Son. I have to pee. Be well, be safe, and behave.
The following